Did you know that by the age of 80, the average person will have walked about 115,000 miles? That is enough to circle the Earth nearly 5 times. But here is something even more surprising. After the age of 70, the way you walk could be silently damaging your body, accelerating joint deterioration, and even increasing your risk of falls by up to 30%. I recently met Martha, a vibrant 78-year-old who had always been active. For decades, she took pride in her daily 2-mile walks around the neighborhood. But over the past year, she noticed increasing pain in her knees and hips. Her doctor was puzzled. Her scans showed minimal arthritis, certainly not enough to explain her level of discomfort. It was not until a physical therapist observed her walking pattern that the real problem became clear. After 70+ years of walking, Martha had developed subtle but damaging habits in her gait that were putting tremendous strain on her joints. The truth is, as we age, many of us unknowingly adopt walking patterns that seem easier in the moment, but actually cause harm over time. The good news? By identifying and correcting these mistakes, you can dramatically reduce pain, improve mobility, and potentially add years of independent living to your life. In this video, I'll show you the 5 most common walking mistakes people make after 70, explain why they were so harmful, and most importantly, teach you exactly how to fix them. By the end, you will know exactly what changes to make to protect your joints, strengthen your muscles, and walk with confidence well into your 80s and beyond. If you are finding this information valuable, please hit the like button and consider subscribing to our channel. Your support helps us create more content to help seniors live their best lives. Now, let us get started with the first common walking mistake. The mistake number 1, the shuffle step. One of the most common and damaging walking patterns I see in people over 70 is what physical therapists call the shuffle step. Instead of lifting your feet completely off the ground with each step, you begin to drag or shuffle your feet as you walk. Your steps become shorter, your posture hunches forward, and your feet barely leave the ground. Think about Ron, a 76-year-old retired teacher who came to me complaining of lower back pain and frequent stumbles. When I observed him walking, I immediately noticed his shuffle. With each step, his feet barely cleared the ground, creating a scraping sound against the pavement. This pattern had developed so gradually that Ron hadn't even noticed the change. Why does this happen? As we age, several factors contribute to the shuffle. Decreased muscle strength, particularly in the hip flexors and ankle muscles, makes it harder to lift your feet. Balance concerns can make you subconsciously keep your feet closer to the ground, feeling safer with that constant connection. And years of sedentary habits, sitting for hours watching TV or at a computer, tighten hip flexors and weaken crucial walking muscles. But here is why the shuffle is so dangerous. First, it dramatically increases your risk of tripping over even small obstacles like carpet edges or sidewalk cracks. Second, it creates a chain reaction of poor posture that strains your back, hips, and knees. And third, it actually makes your balance worse over time by weakening key stabilizing muscles that aren't being properly engaged. How can you fix the shuffle step? Start with these 3 simple techniques. First, practice the march in place exercise daily. While holding onto a sturdy counter or chair for support, deliberately lift each knee higher than normal, focusing on raising your foot completely off the ground. Aim for 20 lifts per leg twice daily. Second, strengthen your dorsiflexion. That is your ability to pull your toes up toward your shin. Sit in a chair and place your heel on the ground, then lift the front of your foot while keeping your heel down. Hold for 5 seconds, then lower. Repeat 10 times on each foot, 3 times daily. Third, be mindful of your walking pattern. When taking a walk, consciously think about picking up your feet with each step. It will feel exaggerated at first, but this mindfulness creates new neural patterns that will gradually become your natural gait. Ron committed to these 3 techniques, practicing faithfully for just 10 minutes a day. Within 3 weeks, his shuffle was noticeably improved, his back pain had decreased, and most importantly, he hadn't experienced any near falls in over 2 weeks. Sometimes the simplest changes yield the most powerful results. If you are recognizing the shuffle step in your own walking pattern, comment "foot lift" below to let me know. Now let us move on to the second major walking mistake. Mistake number 2, the narrow walking base. The second critical mistake many seniors make when walking is adopting a too narrow base. This happens when your feet land almost directly in front of each other, as if you're walking on a tightrope rather than maintaining a healthy distance between your feet. Consider Helen, a 72-year-old grandmother who came to me after a fall that fortunately didn't result in serious injury. When I observed her walking, her feet were landing almost directly in front of one another, creating an unstable line of movement. She gradually adopted this narrow base over several years without realizing it. Why does this happen? As balance becomes more challenging with age, many people unconsciously tighten their walking pattern, bringing their feet closer to their body's midline in an attempt to feel more controlled. Ironically, this actually decreases stability. Hip and core weakness can also contribute, as these muscles help maintain proper alignment during walking. The dangers of a narrow walking base are significant. First, it dramatically reduces your lateral stability, making you much more vulnerable to sideways falls, which often cause the most serious injuries in seniors. Second, it increases pressure on your knees and hips by forcing them into unnatural alignment. And third, it prevents your body from properly absorbing shock when walking, sending jarring forces up through your joints with each step. How can you correct a narrow walking base? Here are 3 effective techniques. First, practice the railroad track walking exercise. Find a long hallway and imagine you re-walking with one foot on each rail of a railroad track. Your feet should land about 4 to 6 inches apart, parallel to each other. It will feel awkwardly wide at first, but this helps recalibrate your normal walking width. Second, strengthen your hip abductors, the muscles that move your legs outward. While standing and holding onto a counter for support, lift one leg out to the side, keeping your knee straight. Hold for 2 seconds, then slowly lower. Repeat 10 times on each side, twice daily. Third, use visual cues during regular walks. Look for tile patterns on floors or sidewalk cracks and practice walking so that your feet land on parallel lines. This visual feedback helps reinforce the proper width. Helen diligently practiced these techniques, and within a month, her walking base had widened to a much more stable pattern. She reported feeling more confident on uneven surfaces and noticed that her occasional knee pain had significantly decreased. If you were working on improving your walking base, comment wider steps below. Now let us examine the third major walking mistake. Mistake number 3, forward head posture. The third serious walking mistake that affects many people over 70 is forward head posture, where your head juts forward ahead of your shoulders rather than being balanced directly above your spine. Let me tell you about James, a 75-year-old who had been experiencing chronic neck pain, headaches, and increasingly limited mobility. When I observed his walking, his head was positioned several inches forward of his shoulders, creating a pronounced turtleneck appearance. This position had become so normal to him that he was surprised when I pointed it out. Why does this happen? Years of looking down at phones, books, or while walking to watch for hazards gradually trains the neck to hold this forward position. Weakened upper back muscles fail to provide proper support, and the natural tendency to lean forward increases as balance becomes more challenging with age. The consequences of forward head posture are far-reaching and serious. First, for every inch your head moves forward, the effective weight on your spine increases by about 10 pounds, creating tremendous strain on your neck vertebrae and muscles. Second, this posture compresses your lungs, reducing oxygen intake by up to 30%, which contributes to fatigue and reduced endurance. Third, it shifts your center of gravity forward, making falls more likely and throwing off your entire walking mechanics. How can you correct forward head posture? Here are 3 proven techniques. First, practice the hump wall angel exercise. Stand with your back against a wall, feet about 6 inches away. With your head, upper back, and buttocks touching the wall, raise your arms to shoulder height with elbows bent at 90 degrees, also touching the wall. Slowly slide your arms up and down while maintaining contact with the wall. Aim for 10 repetitions, twice daily. Second, strengthen your deep neck flexors with chin tucks. While sitting or standing with your spine straight, Gently draw your chin straight back, creating a double chin. Hold for 5 seconds, then release. Repeat 10 times, several times throughout the day. Third, practice mindful walking. Imagine a string pulling upward from the crown of your head while keeping your chin parallel to the ground. Check your posture in reflective surfaces as you pass by shops or windows during your walks. James committed to these exercises and within 6 weeks reported a 70% reduction in his neck pain. His posture visibly improved and he found he could walk longer distances without fatigue. Most importantly, he developed body awareness that helped him catch himself falling into old patterns. If you were working on improving your head posture while walking, comment "head up" below. Now, let us move on to our fourth common mistake. First mistake number 4, reduced arm swing. The fourth major walking mistake that develops after 70 is reduced arm swing, where your arms move less freely and naturally during walking, often barely moving at all. Consider Margaret, an active 73-year-old who noticed she was feeling increasingly unsteady while walking, especially on slight inclines or uneven surfaces. When I observed her gait, I immediately noticed that her arms hardly moved as she walked. They remained stiffly at her sides with only minimal motion. Why does this happen? As we age, shoulder stiffness and reduced rotational mobility in the spine naturally develop. Many seniors unconsciously reduce arm movement to avoid discomfort from arthritis or muscle tightness. Additionally, the focus on not falling leads many older adults to hold their arms rigidly for perceived stability. But reduced arm swing creates serious problems. First, your arms serve as natural counterbalances during walking, and without this counterbalance, your entire gait becomes less stable. Second, arm swing actually helps propel your body forward efficiently, and without it you expend up to 20% more energy when walking, leading to faster fatigue. Third, the natural rotation of your torso that accompanies arm swing helps maintain spinal mobility and core strength, both critical for healthy aging. How can you restore natural arm swing? Try these 3 approaches. First, practice exaggerated arm swing exercises. Stand tall and march in place while deliberately swinging your arms with larger than normal movements, allowing your torso to gently rotate. Start with 30 seconds and gradually increase to 2 to 3 minutes. Second, improve shoulder mobility with pendulum stretches. Lean forward slightly with one hand on a counter for support, letting your other arm hang freely. Gently swing this arm in small circles, gradually increasing the size. Do 10 circles clockwise and 10 counterclockwise with each arm, twice daily. Third, incorporate mindful arm movement during regular walks. For the first minute of each walk, consciously focus on allowing your arms to swing naturally in opposition to your legs. This mindfulness helps retrain your natural walking pattern. Margaret faithfully practiced these techniques, and within a few weeks, her arm swing had noticeably improved. She reported feeling more balanced and found that she could walk farther before getting tired. The natural rhythm returned to her gait, making walking feel more fluid and less laborious. If you're working on improving your arm swing, comment "swing arms" below. Now let us explore the 5th and final major walking mistake. Jass's mistake number 5, improper foot strike and push-off. The 5th, critical walking mistake that develops after 70 involves how your feet interact with the ground, specifically improper foot strike and insufficient push-off. Let me tell you about David, an 81-year-old who had always been an avid walker but had recently developed persistent pain in his feet, ankles, and calves. When I analyzed his walking pattern, I noticed that he was landing flat-footed with each step, rather than with a heel-to-toe rolling motion. Additionally, he was not pushing off effectively with his toes at the end of each step. Why does this happen? Age-related changes in foot structure, including flattening of the arch and less cushioning in the heel pad, can alter how your foot strikes the ground. Decreased ankle mobility and toe strength make the rolling heel-to-toe motion more difficult, and as walking speed naturally slows with age,